Hello, and welcome to Wisdom and Wealth. I am so grateful you decided to join me today. In this video, we will explore a profound question: why is human life so precious and rare? We will look at ancient wisdom for guidance. As you settle in, I encourage you to take a moment. Notice your breath, the chair beneath you, the sounds around you. You are here. You are present. And that, my friends, is truly remarkable. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to support Wisdom and Wealth for more content like this. Now, let's delve into the idea that you're simply here. You might take it for granted, but consider this: science tells us that the odds of you being born, with your specific genetic makeup, experiences, and place in history, are astronomically small, somewhere in the realm of 1 in 400 trillion. That's not just rare, it's practically a statistical impossibility. And yet, here you are, listening to this video. But the Buddhist perspective goes even deeper than mere existence. The Buddha taught that being born is already rare, but being born as a human being, capable of thought, feeling, questioning, and introspection, is even more exceptional. This capacity for self-awareness, for reflecting on our own existence, is not something to be taken lightly. It's the very foundation upon which we can build a life of meaning and purpose. This human existence, with its unique blend of joy and sorrow, offers us a powerful opportunity to wake up, to see the world with new eyes. Buddhist teachings describe various realms of existence, not as physical locations, but as states of being. Some of these realms are characterized by intense suffering, where beings are consumed by fear, hunger, or confusion, leaving little room for reflection or growth. In these realms, survival is the primary focus, and the possibility of awakening remains distant. Then there are realms of pure pleasure, where life feels perfect and effortless, with no apparent need for change or deeper understanding. But in these realms, complacency can set in. Without challenges, without the friction of difficulty, there is no motivation to seek something more, to ask profound questions about the nature of reality. Human realm is unique because it lies somewhere in the middle. We experience moments of joy, but we also confront sickness, aging, and loss. This balance, this interplay of positive and negative experiences, is not a cosmic accident. It's a catalyst. It provides us with just enough discomfort to spark curiosity, to begin questioning the nature of our existence. We start to wonder, why do we suffer? What is the purpose of life? Is there a better way to live? These questions, born from our human experience, are the seeds of wisdom. The journey toward awakening often begins not with blissful contentment, but with a sense of dissatisfaction, a yearning for something more meaningful. To illustrate the rarity of this opportunity, the Buddha shared a powerful analogy. Imagine a wooden ring floating on the vast surface of the ocean. Now, picture a blind turtle living at the bottom of the sea, surfacing only once every 100 years. What are the chances that this turtle, purely by accident, would poke its head through that floating ring? The Buddha suggested that being born as a human being is even rarer than that seemingly impossible event. Most people go through life without ever considering the preciousness of their existence. We wake up, go to work, eat, sleep, scroll through our phones, and repeat, all without truly grasping the profound gift of this human experience. Yet, consider what you have right now: a body that functions, a mind capable of understanding, and a life that, while perhaps challenging, is not so unbearable that it completely crushes your spirit. Even in our modern world, with all its technology and knowledge, only a small fraction of people possess all the necessary conditions to cultivate wisdom, not just comfort and time, but also the desire to understand. The curiosity to ask, is there more to life than simply going through the motions? Many are simply too preoccupied, too exhausted, or too indifferent to even consider such questions. This isn't a judgment, but rather a simple observation. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. So, if you're here, listening to these words, and even remotely interested in exploring something deeper, that in itself is a rare and significant thing. It indicates that something within you is awake, receptive, and ready to learn. This is the perfect chance to get in the habit of liking or subscribing the Buddhist Doctrine channel. The Dhammapada, one of the oldest collections of the Buddha's teachings, states, "Rare is birth as a human being, hard is the life of mortals. Rare is the opportunity to hear the sublime truth, rare is the appearance of the Buddhas." This isn't meant to inflate your ego or make you feel superior to others. It's a gentle reminder that you didn't simply win a cosmic lottery. You are here because this human form provides the ideal conditions for growth in ways that other realms simply cannot offer. You experience just enough pain to awaken you, and just enough clarity to perceive a new path. And now that you're here, with this precious opportunity, what will you choose to do with it? Why you were born human? If you're able to listen, to think, and to reflect, you already have something many beings do not. You were born a human being, not a hungry ghost, not an animal, not a being trapped in rage or consumed by endless pleasure. And that matters greatly. Buddhist teachings explain that nothing happens by chance, all life forms arise from specific causes and conditions. The shape of your body, the strength of your mind, even the openness of your heart, none of these things appeared from nowhere. They are the results of past actions, both in this life and in previous ones. Not just what you did, but how you did it, and why. Some actions lead us downward, into fear, pain, and confusion. But other actions create the conditions for clarity, awareness, and ultimately, being born as a human being. One of the most important of these actions is the choice not to harm. When someone protects life, not just avoiding killing, but also valuing the lives of others, that respect generates a sense of safety in the mind. Over time, it increases the likelihood of being born in a form where fear doesn't dominate. Another key action is generosity. People who give freely, who share without expecting something in return, cultivate a mind that is less constricted, less driven by greed. This openness matures into a life where things feel more balanced, providing the space needed for learning and growth. Then, there is truthfulness. When someone speaks honestly, they build clarity within themselves. They are not hiding behind lies or deception. This inner clarity stays with the mind and helps create a future where understanding becomes possible. And finally, restraint. Avoiding harmful acts, such as stealing, sexual misconduct, or losing control through intoxicants, protects the mind from damage. It maintains the mind's strength, enabling it to remain present and attentive. However, the Buddha didn't stop at simply describing actions. He also emphasized the importance of intention. Two people might perform the same act, for example, giving a gift, but one might do it out of pride, while the other does it out of genuine care. The results of these actions will be significantly different. What you hold in your heart truly matters. This is why being born human is so rare, because these beneficial causes and conditions don't often align. Some people are born into human bodies but live in constant fear. Others are born without access to education, or with minds too clouded to think clearly. These lives still have value, but they lack the same opportunity for deep inner work. So, if you have even a small chance to listen, to think clearly, to sit quietly in reflection, that is not something to take lightly. It is the result of dedicated effort, perhaps not just in this life, but over many lifetimes. But it was effort, not simply luck, that has brought you to this point. There's an old story from the time of the Buddha. After he attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, he remained silent for a time. He perceived the truth, but he hesitated to teach it, thinking, this truth goes against the way most people think. They are so immersed in distraction and desire that they won't understand. But then, a great being appeared before him. His name was Brahma Sahampati, a high deity from the Brahma world. He bowed before the Buddha and pleaded with him, saying, there are beings with only a little dust in their eyes. They will understand. Please teach, for their sake. And so, the Buddha agreed to teach. Not for the masses, but for the few who were ready not because they were special, but because their minds had been shaped, slowly and gently, over many lifetimes. Now, with this teaching fresh in your mind, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you feel even a faint sense of interest in these ideas, not excitement or craving, but a calm curiosity, that is a significant sign. It signifies that your mind is beginning to open, that the dust is starting to clear. The Buddha once said, "Beings are the owners of their actions. They inherit their actions. They are born from their actions, connected to their actions, and live supported by their actions. You are not here by mere chance. You are here because of your own past actions, your past care, your past restraint, your past willingness to speak and live honestly. Even small actions, when performed with sincerity, leave deep traces." And now, with this life in your hands, the question becomes simple: will you continue to plant those same kinds of seeds? Or will you forget what brought you here? The answer, like the path itself, begins in this very moment. Why life is so hard, and why that's a good thing, there's a question that many people quietly grapple with, even if they never express it openly. If human life is so precious, why does it entail so much suffering? Why are there losses, breakups, accidents, injustices, illnesses, and death, sometimes all within the same year, or even within the same family? From an external perspective, it can appear as though the world is fundamentally flawed, as if something went terribly wrong in its creation. But within the Buddha's teachings, this is not seen as a defect. It is understood as the very nature of the world, as we know it. Strangely enough, it's this very nature that makes awakening possible. In the Buddhist view, the human realm occupies a unique middle ground in the spectrum of existence. There are beings who live in perpetual suffering, where pain is so overwhelming that it barely allows for any coherent thought. And there are others who dwell in perpetual pleasure, surrounded by beauty and ease, with no apparent motivation to question anything. But neither of these extremes provides the fertile ground for cultivating wisdom. Only humans inhabit a space where things are just uncertain enough to cause us to pause and ask, what is truly going on here? Why do things inevitably fall apart, even when we exert so much effort to hold them together? Why do fleeting moments of happiness always pass? Why do we feel loneliness, even when we are surrounded by others? These questions are not a burden, but rather the seeds of wisdom. The suffering inherent in life is not intended as a punishment. It serves as a revelation, exposing us to the true nature of reality. It reveals what is unreliable, what cannot be controlled, what is ultimately impermanent. This isn't to inflict more suffering, but to encourage us to release the illusion that anything in this world will remain unchanged. The loss of a job, a broken friendship, an illness, these events shake us to our core. But within that shaking, something deeper can emerge. When the familiar comforts are stripped away, truth finds an opportunity to enter. That's why this human life, with all its inherent stresses and sorrows, is not a mistake. It's a wake-up call. Modern psychology is also beginning to recognize this phenomenon. The term post-traumatic growth describes how individuals, after experiencing profound hardship, often report feeling more grounded, more grateful, and more connected to what truly matters. It's not that the pain itself was inherently beneficial, but rather that it served to reveal what had been hidden. From a Buddhist perspective, this growth is not simply a matter of recovering from trauma, it's a step toward profound insight. It's a moment when the heart declares, I don't merely want to survive, I want to understand. There's a frequently quoted statement from Viktor Frankl, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning. Buddhism concurs with this idea, but adds a crucial dimension. It asserts that beyond meaning, there is freedom. Not a freedom from pain itself, but a freedom from being controlled by it. That freedom arises when we cease to struggle against suffering and begin to look at it with a sense of presence. The Buddha stated, it is in this very body, with its thoughts and feelings, that the truth can be seen, the truth of suffering, its cause, its end, and the path leading beyond it. He didn't point to some other world or some distant future. He pointed to this very one. The same world where people cry, age, and ultimately die. The same world where we experience the joy of love, and then the heartache of loss. This is the very world where wisdom grows, not in spite of the suffering, but through it. Therefore, if your life sometimes feels overly burdensome, uncertain, or unfair, resist the urge to turn away. Don't assume that something has gone wrong. The cracks that you perceive are not the end, but the very beginning. And the fact that you can even feel them, that your heart still trembles, indicates that you haven't completely closed yourself off. You remain open, still capable of listening, still capable of awakening. That is not a failure, it is the path itself. Take a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel. How we waste our lives without knowing it. Most people don't waste their lives through dramatic acts of wrongdoing. They waste them quietly, by simply not being present for them. A day passes, a month passes, and when someone inquires about what you've been doing, it becomes difficult to articulate. Not because you've been inactive, but because your mind has been elsewhere throughout the whole time. It's easy to imagine wasting life as some grand, catastrophic failure, like squandering your opportunities or making a monumental mistake. But in Buddhist teachings, it's far more subtle than that. Wasting life, in its essence, means being physically present but mentally absent. Your body goes through the motions, but your mind is lost, flitting between dwelling on the past and anticipating the future. You might be successful by conventional standards. You might be respected by your peers. You might be occupied every hour of the day. Yet, you can still be drifting through life like a ghost, disconnected from your own experience. How does this happen? It often starts with seemingly insignificant choices. A moment of boredom, and you instinctively reach for your phone. A moment of silence, and you immediately fill it with noise. A task feels mundane, so your mind wanders to something more stimulating. And gradually, imperceptibly, you stop paying attention to your own life. You cease to fully feel it. When this pattern becomes ingrained, life begins to blur into a monotonous stream of days. Days pass by, but they leave no lasting impression. You look back and struggle to recall what made you feel truly alive. You were there, but you weren't truly present. The Buddha frequently spoke of mindfulness, not merely as a technique, but as a way of being. It means being fully aware of what is happening as it is happening. It sounds straightforward, yet it is surprisingly rare. It requires conscious effort to remain with the present moment instead of reacting to it, escaping from it, or attempting to rush past it. Here are some subtle indications that mindfulness might be slipping. You are constantly engaged in activity, yet you rarely feel genuinely fulfilled. You often struggle to remember what you did last week, or even yesterday. When things become quiet, you instinctively seek out distractions. You rarely pause to ask yourself, why am I doing this? There is a persistent, underlying feeling that something is missing, but you cannot quite identify what it is. None of these signs indicates that you have failed. They simply suggest that you have been drawn into a world that prioritizes speed over stillness, reaction over reflection. But the Buddha didn't teach us to withdraw from the world. He taught us to awaken within it, not by retreating to remote mountains, but by starting with where we already are, with what we already do. Even something as simple as drinking tea or walking across a room can become a moment of clarity, if you are truly present for it. That is why wasting life has nothing to do with dying young. It has everything to do with being disconnected while you are still alive. There's a brief teaching in the Dhammapada: better it is to live one day mindful and wise, than to live 100 years distracted and uncontrolled. A single day lived fully, deeply felt, and clearly seen carries more weight than a lifetime spent on autopilot. Therefore, if you wish to cease wasting your life, you don't necessarily need to make radical changes. You simply need to return to where you are, not in theory, but in direct experience, with conscious attention. That is how life begins anew, not with a new set of plans, but with a renewed sense of presence. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel to support Wisdom and Wealth. How to make this life truly count. Many people postpone living deeply, waiting for the perfect moment to begin. They wait until they have more time, better circumstances, or fewer distractions. But in the teachings of the Buddha, that kind of waiting is precisely how we waste this precious human life. The Buddha never insisted that we become monks or nuns to live meaningfully. He never demanded that we abandon our families or retreat to mountaintops to discover truth. Instead, he pointed to something far more accessible, the life we are already living, right here, right now. So, what does it truly mean to live this life well? As it says in the Dhammapada, to avoid all evil, to cultivate good, and to purify the mind, this is the teaching of all Buddhas. These 3 lines, while seemingly simple, are remarkably comprehensive. First, to avoid harm, not just physical harm, but also words and actions that breed regret or confusion. Second, to nurture the good, to cultivate habits like kindness, patience, honesty, and compassion. And third, to purify the mind, to become aware of when we are caught in the grip of craving, anger, or delusion, and to gently guide ourselves back to awareness. That's how you make this life count. You don't need to do it flawlessly. You simply need to notice when you have drifted off course and gently steer yourself back. The Buddha provided us with a clear method for doing this. It's known as satipatthana, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. He didn't present mindfulness as something esoteric or extraordinary, he presented it as something simple, trainable, and integral to daily life. He said in Satipatthana Sutta, this is the direct path for the purification of beings, for the overcoming of sorrow and grief, for the going beyond suffering, namely, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. This means that washing your face can be an act of awakening. Speaking kindly to a stranger can be a mindful practice. Even noticing your breath while waiting in traffic can be a way to avoid squandering this precious life. But this path isn't just about cultivating inner peace, it's about gaining clarity. Clarity to discern what truly matters from what doesn't. To pause before acting out of habitual patterns. To ask ourselves, am I living with presence, or merely passing time? The Buddha also taught the Eightfold Path, 8 simple principles to guide us toward living a life free from regret. Right understanding, right intention, right speech, right action. Right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. These are not abstract concepts for scholars to debate, they are practical tools for everyday living. Even if we apply them in small ways each day, they begin to transform us, slowly and deeply. Because in the end, the greatest tragedy is not failing to achieve worldly success, it's being so consumed by chasing everything else that you never truly show up for anything at all. So, how do we live this human life to the fullest? We begin by embracing the present moment, just as it is. Not waiting for the perfect version of our life to begin, but noticing this breath, this task, this person in front of us. And asking ourselves, can I meet this moment with presence? When you do that, even doing the dishes becomes something sacred, not because the dishes themselves are special, but because you are finally fully present. The Buddha once said, the root of suffering is attachment. He taught that when we are clinging to things that are impermanent, we are setting ourselves up for disappointment. But when we let go of our attachments, we are free to experience the world as it truly is. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Not because the dishes are special, but because you are finally here.